How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. Make sure to drop a like and a subscription to the YouTube channel and drop a 5-star review if you enjoy the episode and our podcast on Apple and Spotify. Today we're discussing the Yankees DFAing Colton Brewer and promoting Greg Weissert, who, we always knew was going to get promoted this year. It was just a matter of when, and kind of breaking down what his stuff looks like, what he brings to this bullpen. We saw him in a small sample size last year. Didn't have the best numbers, but he didn't give up a run over his final 4 appearances. I think he had 12 in total, so that's definitely a positive to work off of, and he's been really good at the AAA level. Now, there are some concerns. There are some things they need to work on, but Greg Weissert is definitely a promising arm at 28 years old, just kind of reaching the MLB level and hoping to make an impact on this Yankee team. But Ryan, before we dive into Weissert, why Colton Brewer was DFA'd, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. End of the day, Colton Brewer kind of was thrust into the fire and had to just fill up innings. And the Yankees need a fresh arm, right? Like it's a business. At the end of the day, it's kind of a brutal, unfair business, but that's baseball. That's life. Greg Weissert, however, he's gone out and he's made some adjustments in AAA. So I'm actually really excited to see what he does this year. Last year the stuff was obviously nasty, right? Like you'll see him throw a 20-inch, slider and you're like, holy crap, like this dude is insane. And then he'll throw a sinker that runs 20 inches the other way and you're like, yeah, this dude is unhittable. But the issue is unhittable also not just in the zone, but also out of the zone, right? Like you can't get a hit on a walk, right? That's not how that works. And Greg Weissert had command issues. Now, can you expect Greg Weissert to go out there and walk like 3% of batters faced? No. But can he go out there and improve the ability to go out and get more swings so that batters are likelier to swing? Batters are more likely to expand the strike zone, let's say. He can get to more 2-strike counts. He can put himself in situations where he's going to get more aggressive swings from batters. Absolutely. And part of that is a cutter. He's added a cutter. Cutters are kind of like the Yankees thing. Whenever someone has something wrong with their fastball, or whenever someone has something wrong with their chase rate, the Yankees just say, throw a cutter, right? Nestor Cortez, his fix was throw a cutter. Garrett Cole, he's thrown a cutter. I don't know if you remember Tyone last year when he started throwing a cutter. His numbers improved. Montgomery got rid of his cutter last year to start the year, then brought it back. The Yankees are a big proponent of the cutter. And Greg Weissert, I think he was always a good cutter candidate. Now, he shouldn't get rid of his four-seam fastball, nor should he obviously get rid of his sinker. But having 6 pitches that he can command decently well is going to be really nice. Again, we know the wipeout stuff is there. He's been really good in AAA so far. In the small sample size we've seen of him, his walk rate's actually only been like 5.6%. And now that's not going to sustain. I don't think he's going to walk 5.6% of batters, but if he can get it to around 18% in terms of his strikeout to walk percentage, right now in AAA it's like 30%. Again, not sustainable. And he's going out and still getting ground balls and soft contact. He's going to have a really strong ERA. And we're not asking Greg Weissert, like, all right, man, go close, right? Like, here's the 9th inning, up by 1 run. We're up against the Twins, and here's Correa, Buxton, and go try to save the game. Like, that's not going to happen, right? It's more going to be like, hey, here's the 7th inning, we're up 2 runs, we're down 2 runs, just get through this inning cleanly. Let's see what you got. That's more of the role he's going to play. When you look at like the Albert Abreu's of the world, where like he's kind of in towards the back end of the bullpen, I'd say Jimmy Cordero's kind of towards that back end of the trust tree. I like Cordero's stuff, but he's not a guy who has a long-term, doesn't have a long track record of in the organization or having much success. So naturally, he's not going to be ranked very high in that bullpen. But when you have guys like Ian Hamilton, who's kind of a hidden gem out of nowhere, the Yankees make a couple tweaks to his game and he goes out and he's shoving. Weisiga, when he's healthy, we know what he's capable of. Obviously, Peralta and King, those are guys who, when they first started being relievers with the Yankees, they weren't that effective. And then after, with a couple adjustments, some struggles, they're able to put together. Pitching nowadays isn't about, okay, if you're 27, you're not good, you're never going to be good. Look at Nestor Cortez, right? Like he figured it out at 26. This is all about if your stuff is good and, there are adjustments and tweaks to your game that can be made, the Yankees will go out and make those tweaks. And I hope this cutter is the tweak he makes that can help him going forward.
Yeah, look, Greg Weissert's a pretty solid pitcher. Like his stuff is solid. He has really great grades across the board with it. As I mentioned before, finished last year with a 5.56 ERA. The only question I have about Weissert is, can he keep those walk numbers down? The walks at the minor league level have been prevalent, right? He had almost 4 walks per 9 innings last year with the Yankees at the major league level, but he had 3.56 in AAA in 2022, 5.4 in 2021. Walking batters, and Ryan, I know you hate this as much as anybody. Walking batters is the most annoying thing ever. So Do you think that that's going to be a problem for Weissert? Because that has been an issue for him basically his entire minor league career. If that translates to the MLB, it's going to be hard to justify keeping him around for the long term or considering him a pretty prominent piece, right?
Yeah, the way I look at it is model Ron Marinaccio. Ron Marinaccio walks a lot of guys, but he's a successful reliever. That's like, I'm not saying that, there's walking guys will translate to being good. As you mentioned, I hate walks, especially to the bottom of the lineup. If you walk the 9-hitter to face the top of the lineup, I'm probably pulling my best Frank Fleming impression in my chair. But in all seriousness, though, if he can just keep it down to 10%, keep that walk rate to 10%, get the strikeouts at around 27 to 28% clip, and continue to get ground balls, he's going to be really good, right? That's for Weissert. It's not about not walking guys. It's about not walking an obscene amount of batters. There's a difference, right? There are guys who are just effectively wild. There are closers who are effectively wild. There are closers who you're not going to ask them to fill up the strike zone because that's not their bread and butter, and that's not what they're capable of, right? And that's Greg Weissert files into that. Now, would I love for him to come up and walk 5% of batters only and strike out 30% of guys? Obviously, that's the ideal outcome, but we have to be realistic here, right? Setting unrealistic expectations for pitchers and then getting upset when they can't live up to those unrealistic expectations, that's more on the fan than anyone else. But again, Weissert's not going to be asked to do more than, just be a middle relief or back into the bullpen. Do I think the Yankees are going to trust him quickly if he gets off to a good start? Yes, and I would, because quite frankly, I think relievers are very volatile. I think that, a guy clicking, you can kind of ride that out until it's not working. Look at Clay Holmes. The Yankees just kind of said, all right, he's pitching well. Now you're going to be the closer next year. You're pitching well, and now you're our best reliever. Wandy Peralta, he was bad to start off his tenure in 2021. He comes back, starts throwing the changeup a bunch, and the Yankees are like, all right, go close the game against Freddie Freeman. That's how the Yankees work, and it's worked well for them. I think, moving away from the established closer, moving away from we paid this guy to be our closer, he must close games, has only served to benefit the team. And so Weissert, I think, is going to benefit from just a very fluid bullpen situation. There are a lot of question marks. We talked about this with Clay Holmes. We don't really know if are you going to throw Clay Holmes in the 8th inning again in that same situation? I don't know. The record with the Yankees would say yes, but the recent history would say no. So that's going to be a situation where you're like, all right, 7, 8, and 9 hitters, they're all right-handed. Do I go with Weissert here instead of Holmes, right? That's a legitimate question you might ask yourself. Or I'll go with Weissert in the 7th inning so I can have Michael King for the 8th and the 9th. That's also something the Yankees could do. It's just about deepening your bullpen and hoping you get the production you're looking for out of Weissert.
I kind of like the strategy they've been using and just kind of bringing guys up, riding the hot hand until they run out of juice. And it's worked well. And now finding guys that are consistent, that's the hard part, right? Marinaccio, he's been consistent for us. You really love to see that. Weissert, when he's healthy, is consistent. Michael King, before the injury, consistent. I think he'll ramp up well this year. I really like next year. I know we have a couple free agents out of the bullpen, but we also have a lot of really good arms. You get Scott Efros back. You still have King for a long time. You still have Marinaccio for a long time. You could bring Wandy back if you want to. There's a lot of different guys in this bullpen that for the long term, we are set. But in the short term, still dealing with injury. Tommy Kahnle going down this early before even pitching basically an inning was tough, right? You give him almost $12 million over 2 years. You expect him to make an impact. That was one of the more risky moves Brian Cashman made this offseason, and it clearly is not panning out. And then you have Lou Trevino, who was tremendous for us after, being acquired in the Frankie Montas trade. So right now we're still missing a lot of key arms, and there are going to be some guys in movement in that bullpen. Greg Weissert will likely get sent down again in the future when they get some healthy guys back. But Johnny Brito ended up, his tough performance on Thursday was realistically the reason they had to DFA Colton Brewer. If Brito was fine, pitched 5 innings, 6 innings of good baseball, gave up a couple runs, whatever, Colton Brewer would still be on this team. The fact that he had to pitch 3 innings and gave up 2 homers immediately and just, used up a lot of his arm, that's what ultimately cost him his job. I mean, he's going to land elsewhere and probably be a major league pitcher, but, that cost him his job with the Yankees. Unless he clears waiver and lands on the AAA roster, we may never see Colton Brewer again. So Brito's tough performance just goes to show you, like you said, volatility. The volatility of young pitchers, and it could be stars, could be bullpen arms, ultimately costs others their jobs sometimes, and it's kind of a harsh reality, but kind of an interesting, perspective to look at. But, Greg Weissert, he ends up benefiting from this. He ends up getting called up because of it. So we'll see how things go. Hopefully he's great. Maybe he'll pitch today. We'll keep you guys updated on that as always, but happy to hear your perspectives below on Greg Weissert and what you think about this bullpen right now. If you trust Clay Holmes, there's definitely some movable pieces, but hopefully everyone kind of ramps up as the season progresses here. But as always, my friends, make sure to like and subscribe. As always, enjoy the game this afternoon, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.